name is Catherine Gloston, and this is my final project for ELRC 7502. This is flexing my math muscles. So, I'm going to actually do my presentation from the learning management system that I actually started and designing my course around. What we realized last year at my school was that we had a lot of our students who were 100% virtual when we first started school. And Google Classroom was not providing us with the structure that we were looking for. So we looked into Moodle, we looked into Blackboard, we looked into Canvas, and I wound up actually enjoying Canvas a whole lot more. So being that I was over tech, I got to select the learning management system that we would use just for our 100% virtual students, so our distant education, which we call our online academy. And so this is why I am going to be utilizing Canvas, because when we have when we offer our distance education courses, we like to use Canvas. And I will start off with my actual course. So my course is set up with a welcome video at the beginning, and basically I like to make sure the students know who I am. A majority of them already do, because already know me because they were actually in person, but due to the pandemic they're 100% online. And so just in case, they have a video, and from there I'll talk to you. So inside here is the targeted audience. So this online math course is designed for middle school students in grades 6 through 8. This area is definitely an area where this course is needed, because many of my middle schoolers, they were not getting that math component down pat. And we had so much different things that were going on between the pandemic, the teacher shortage, and myself just getting into the math area and taking over for other teachers when they would leave out. It left our students with a knowledge gap. So this is why this course is definitely needed for my 6th through 8th graders. And so the purpose of this course is to enhance and reinforce middle school students' mathematical skills. The course, it focuses on the Louisiana state standards in mathematics, so the major, minor, and supporting standards. My students in middle school, they need additional practice opportunities in order for them to develop their mathematical and problem solving skills. So they do need this additional practice, as well as lessons and opportunities for learning, because sometimes we're missing somewhere. So we definitely need more practice in math. So the course outcomes are to organize mathematical skills that will lead to an increase in student mathematical knowledge, design an online course that provides students with an adequate learning experience with effective technology integration, implement gamified learning to a mathematics distance education course. I want to continue to implement. It's one of the things that I do now, which is the gamified learning. But I really want to continue to do that, because it has definitely sparked a lot of engagement with my students when they're actually playing a math game, versus if I'm just doing lecturing all the time. So I definitely want to continue that. The fourth outcome is to duplicate learning opportunities that correlate with the Louisiana math state standards. So with that, I realized that sometimes just basing it just off of the curriculum alone and not looking into those standards, some of my students weren't getting those opportunities that they could actually utilize when it was time to take their standardized testing. So they needed those learning opportunities that were kind of like big major examples of what the standards were actually calling for. And then the fifth one was to identify real world mathematical problems that allow students to connect with math content. Now, most of my students, you'd always have a student who asks, are we going to use this later on? Yes, yes, definitely. It's math. So making sure that they actually know that these problems will be used later on in life, it definitely gets them engaged even more so. So my process for this whole course, as far as the design, is one, I looked at my learning outcomes. So I wanted to figure out what should my students be able to do. And that was based off of me just analyzing certain knowledge gaps that they had, but also looking at those standards and picking out the different things that they should be able to do at this grade level. And then from there, coming up with these learning activities. So how am I going to be able to get them to grasp these skills? How are they going to learn it? And that comes from the games and different tech tools that I use. And then the assessments. How will I know my students can that they're able to actually do this? My assessments is I always like to assess before they start a module, and then once they finish that module, they have exit tickets. They have, even from just simple practice, it's an informal observation. They're practicing, but it still lets me know, are they actually, am I seeing a gain in their learning? Excuse me. So all of those things are forms of assessments. Now, my course is designed with using the UMT approach. In most of the math curriculum, like Eureka and Saxon and Jump Math, they kind of all fall in that kind of like that same thing, the UMT. So I have 3 units, and each unit has no more than 5 modules, and each module has no more than 5 topics. And so the course is set up with assessments at the beginning. Like I stated, they have the assessment of their prior knowledge called a brain check. And then they dive into the topic. After they finish, they take, then they have what I call a math chat, and they have a module assessment. And they cannot move forward to the next module until they actually scored over 80%. The reason why I do that is because if they haven't mastered knowing, they don't know what type of numbers are, they don't know absolute value, then they don't know that there's positive and negative numbers. Then when they go to adding and subtracting these fractions or decimals, and they're tossing in negative numbers, then that's gone. They're not going to be able to grasp that new skill. So in order for them to get to the new skill, they have to master the current skill. And so here is my my outline, excuse me. And as you can see, it has my units here. And like I said, each unit has modules, no more than 5. And each module has topics, no more than 5 topics in each one. And so this is for the entire course, the structure of the entire course. And another big thing, I like my students to be able to communicate with me, and I like to be able to communicate with them. So I always like to post up different opportunities for them to ask questions, as well as communicate and provide and discuss with their peers. So this is just at the beginning. It's the Ask the Teacher, which is in the introduction part of the course. And so they're able to ask any questions about the course thus far. And so if they have questions, I'm either going to be able to ask them, or sometimes their peers can, and they're able to get the answers that they need. So now moving on to the modules. So unit 1 is composed of modules 1 through 5. So what I like to do is provide the learning outcomes for each unit. And so at the end of this unit, the students will be able to do all of these things. And these are the big learning outcomes that I'm looking for, like being able to identify rational and irrational numbers, locate the opposite of a given number, analyze proportional relationships, and solve those real world math problems. And so I didn't read all the entire list, but those are those learning outcomes that the students should be able to do once they finish going through modules 1 through 5. And so again, I give them another big breakdown of the unit. So unit 1 is titled Arithmetic and Algebra. So in that unit, they're going to focus on the number system, fractions, decimals, ratio and proportions, expressions, equations, and inequalities. You notice, like I said, each module has a brain check, and they also have an assessment at the end of them. And then there's a unit assessment. So I'm getting all that feedback that I need to know, are they actually mastering these skills, and what areas I need to go back to reinforce any misconceptions. And so the tech tools, I like for all students to have access to the different tools that I use. Although this is not the entire list, because as I find new tech tools that are helpful and engaging, I add them on as long as they do not cause any harm to my students. They're definitely something that I will use. So the top ones that I've been using this year has been Delta Math, Common Core Sheets, Splash Learn, and Math Games. Now, Splash Learn is actually for pre-K through 5th grade. But the way that I've been using Splash Learn for my higher grades is that many of my students still are below grade level. And so by using Splash Learn, they're able to focus on that 5th grade level and try to get themselves mastering that grade level. Or what it does is it assesses them at all grade levels, and it tells me even in one particular area if they're underperforming. So that's why I use Splash Learn, even though it's not a tool for their grade level. It is something that still can be used. And so I like, again, another big thing is although that they have physical textbooks, I still make sure that they have access to their online version of their textbook, because with them being distant, they may have to relocate to a different area. So I want to make sure they have all the instructional materials directly on the learning platform, so they don't have to go and grab anything additional. All the stuff that I do say grab is optional. They do not need it, but some of my students, they prefer to actually write out things so they can see it on paper, which isn't a problem. So this is why I give them various materials that they can use throughout the course. And so here's an example and a breakdown of the first module 1. And so this is topic 1.1, which is the math talk and vocabulary and brain check. So the biggest things that I will use in resources is, one, I will definitely provide them with the vocabulary words, because they need to know those in order to understand the talk that I will do as I proceed forward through a module. They're able to practice their vocabulary on Quizlet, which is an online tech tool. And then after they've done that, this is where they'll go to do their brain check. So they'll just click this, and it'll take them to their brain check, which will take them to another tech tool, which is called Common Core Sheets, or many of the students refer to it as Cocoa Sheets. And so just another example of the setup is like topic 1.2. So here they'll get a video. They're told what they need, but again, if they don't have their physical math book, they can always go back to their to the beginning of the module, and they'll be able to get their online math book. And then once they've gone through the video, they can practice on Delta Math, and then Delta Math records their scores, and I'm able to see exactly how much time was spent and how did they score. Again, same thing here, but this time just using a different tech tool. And so here's a video. They will look at it, and then they'll do quizzes. So it's another resource that I use that integrates the technology. And again, I'm still able to get that immediate feedback once they finish and know exactly how did they score on that particular topic. Now here's this chat. And so every week, I I toss in different chats, and generally with the module, it should take us about a week to get through majority of our modules. Well, a week or two, depending on how we're going, or how they're doing. And so with each module, there is a mat chat. And so this one is like the type of numbers. So they'd have to take what they've learned thus far and actually put it down on paper and have a discussion about it with their classmates. So like, name one type of number that you learned and provide an example. And everybody would chime in to that discussion board, similar to what we do now. And then finally, they would end with an assessment. And so that's where they would take their quiz. And then from there, if they pass, they would move forward. If not, they would have to retake that quiz until they reach that 80% or above. So just to go back and give you the whole outline of everything again, here's the different modules. And as you can see, each module has access to the textbook. They're broken down by the topics, and they all have a brain check and an assessment throughout them. They have prerequisites, so although they're able to see them, they cannot go to them until they've actually successfully passed the prior module. And so this is just a breakdown of module 1, but earlier I broke down the entire structure of the course. Now, as far as evaluation of the course, I am going to be using the Quality Matters rubric, wherein it looks at the standards, the 8 standards, course overview and introduction, learning objectives, assessment and measurement, instructional materials, learning activities and learner interaction, course technology, learner and instructor support, and accessibility and usability. And so those will be the different forms of evaluation that I'll be doing. And basically, I want to make sure that my students are mastering these objectives, and that the objectives, they correlate with the actual activities, but they are using that technology, and it's accessible technology. So I don't want to run into any jams where they're unable to get into quizzes or they're unable to get into Delta Math. They should have easy access to be able to get in those. Once they click in, they understand exactly how to get to that assignment. And with that being said, here are my references that I used, and I appreciate all of your time and patience, and I'm wishing everyone a good luck with the end of summer 1. You have a great day.